maybe you could give us a few of the highlights about the fallen angels in particular, because that's, like you said earlier, a big misunderstanding for a lot of people what these beings and entities are.
Right. Well, I mean, first of all, they're our family. Okay, let's be very clear about that. They came here a long time ago in our Earth years. They have been, sometimes they're called builders of worlds. They volunteered to come here and upgrade, gradually cultivate the physical life here, but also the spiritual life. Our souls, and this is in the book, The Shining Ones. Actually, they make a very clear delineation of the various realms or levels of creation. I call it the heavenly hierarchy. And so our souls are created in heaven, and then they descend down into the lower realms. The lower realms are anything below what just loosely we're calling heaven, a realm of light. There is no physical dimension there. But so you have the causal plane, the astral plane, and the physical plane. Those are all part of the lower realm. And when our souls descend down into this place, this lower realm, we struggle like a seed. When you plant a seed in the ground, there's no light, and it struggles back towards the light, and it grows, and it cultivates. Ultimately, it achieves, hopefully, its true potential. The same is true for us as souls. So this is why we come here. And actually, up until the time I read that book, I felt like there was somebody made a mistake. If God is perfect, then what's all this nonsense going on down here?
Yeah.
So, but it says in there that the lower realms were not just permitted to exist, they were mandated, and that each realm had its own administrator and administration and set of rules, and that every time you enter a realm, you have to agree to the rules. It's a relationship or an agreement. Just like going to school, you have to agree to the school's rules. Otherwise, you're not getting in, and you're sure as hell not graduating. If you can't go through the curriculum unless you agree to participate on their. Well, again, it's their realm, not ours, and we're just passing through. So, what does that have to do with the angels? Well, let's be clear. Some angel just means messenger. So, and there's a lot of things like that you need to understand. Shining Ones is just a title. So you got messenger, shining one. Satan means adversary, Lucifer, light bearer. These are not, this is kind of vague. This doesn't really tell us a whole lot, but in the book, the Shining Ones, I guess Elohim also, it means shining ones. Anunnaki also means shining ones. And did they come from heaven? Did they come from heaven to earth? Yes. They came down through the higher realms. That's one thing one of the many things that Sitchin got wrong, was that these beings came down from other dimensions into this realm. So they were and are not exactly as physical as we are, yet they are interacting with us. And that some of them actually did descend down into the physical realm intentionally to assist. So they became physical enough that they were able to interact with us, including creating hybrids of us, taking these primitive cavemen. Some people say ape men. I think it wasn't just one thing overnight. This was a gradual, natural progression of so you have evolution, but you also have this divine intervention or cultivation of the life forms here, because DNA, as we know, is manipulable. You can program it. Clearly we know that for now. If you have the technology and the intention, you can do that. Okay, so at some point they were cohabitating with us, but separate. Their main base was on Mount Hermon. It's inland from Lebanon, and they created a base of operation there. And so their particular society, that group, was segregated into 3 tiers. So you have your higher ranking, the middle ranking, and the lower ranking. At some point, the lower ranking ones created a rebellion, not in heaven, but in the haven on Mount Hermon. So you're familiar with the game of telephone?
Somewhat.
Okay, so
think
it's all right. So let me just, for anybody who's never heard this before,
Yeah.
if you tell somebody on this end the sky is blue,
Yeah.
and when the time it gets over here, it's, something about somebody needs to tie their shoe.
Yeah, completely different. Yeah.
It changed. And so you could say that there was things that were lost in translation. You could say it was just an innocent misunderstanding about our history, but there's also been a lot of traumatic, cataclysmic, criminal activities that eclipsed our ability to understand who we are. Like they say, like almost like a mass amnesia. That seems to be a factor in how we got so off the path. And the shining ones, angels of light, want, and they do have, like I said, they do have an immediate relationship with us on one level as physical beings, but also they have a direct relationship with us as souls. And that's when we often interact with them. So the other thing is, our ancestors could not have understood artificial light and powered flight. They would not have known what that is. So this is why they depict them as having wings, and the light, they often talked about it as being like fire, or they used the word glory. They just, they didn't have the vernacular or vocabulary and, or even an understanding. They didn't have a context for technology, right? Like that. Everything was just, fire.
Yeah.
And only birds could fly. So if they saw a human being flying, it had to be because they have wings. I mean, so what happened though, when the rebellion happened, it happened in stages. The first stage was those who rebelled were put in prisons in Mount Hermon. And more recruits were brought in. The new recruits, also in the lower ranking tier, they rebelled also at some point, in the sense that they were given the assignment to watch over us, the newly created Homo sapien, this was part of a deal. The lower tiered ones, we'll just call them the fallen ones. They said that you guys are making us work too hard. Why should we do this? And I've always thought that was weird, because if they've got technology, why would they have to be going out there doing manual labor? Why wouldn't they use just like machines like they did to lift those gigantic stones and stuff? Yeah. So for whatever reason, there was a rebellion, and so part of the agreement was, we're going to make helpers for you. We're going to take these primitive cavemen and we're going to blend them with our DNA, and we're going to create hybrid Homo sapien. And you are going to have to watch over them and cultivate them to be helpers, not just for you, but for the whole of us, the shining ones. Like I said, and which to me was, my understanding is totally benevolent, even though we're in the lower realms and things can obviously go bad. Unfortunately, when this new group came in, and this is all in the Book of Enoch, what little we have available of it. Yeah. It says that these watchers started to have relations with the newly created humans, and that the hybrids that they created were so-called giants. That's only part of the story. They also had the scientific knowledge on how to create in a laboratory, since that's where we were created. They started creating other things that they said, they justified it. They said, oh, well, we need bigger and stronger helpers. This Homo sapien, they're smart, but they're not very strong. And, we need something bigger and stronger. So this was the rationale. At some point, their thinking became completely overshadowed by the dark side. And what I mean by that is, there is, in the lower realms, there is, and again, this is permitted. This is permitted. You could say they became possessed by demonic entities. It doesn't excuse the behavior, because what they did was not only a violation of the agreement that they had with their superiors, they were violating our ability to progress on a natural path. We weren't ready for weapons of war. Our women didn't need to be turned into whores. and taught how to seduce with makeup and jewelry and all that stuff. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it really, but their intent was to use and abuse us, which they did. And ultimately that caused a serious policing action by their superiors. And they captured the Watchers. They put them in prison along with the previous fallen ones. And they said, we're going to cause all of the offspring, all of your offspring to kill each other. And we're going to, you're going to have to watch this, and we're going to kill the giants. I think they also had artificial intelligence. And that had to be destroyed. So loosely we call that the flood. But this particular aspect, when they said, we're going to cause your children to kill each other and you will have to watch. The way they do this, and I know this now for sure, is radiation. Ionized radiation is something we're all exposed to, and in increasingly large amounts here on this planet. I'm not just talking about 5G. And the side effect, one of the health effects of ionized radiation exposure is influenza. Now, you say, well, that doesn't make any sense, Robert. Influenza doesn't make you crazy. Actually, it does. That's one of the side effects, is psychosis. Because we're electrochemical beings, our souls are more electroluminous beings. So when we get certain frequencies of radiant energy, causes us basically to short circuit and go nuts, much like you see what's happening today. Okay. So something really huge happened at that point. That's also why the history is broken at that point. And only now is it all becoming available to us again. And not for everybody, because obviously not everybody wants to know the truth. It's because it's disturbing to say the least, but it's better to know. In my opinion, it's far, far better that we know these things now. And one of the things, my wife started reading The Shining Ones, and she got to that part, she says, man, that part sounds exactly like what's happening now. Are we all going to get wiped out? Like, I don't know. She says, okay, but how then, if the Shining Ones are so smart, how come the fallen ones were able to rebuild everything? That doesn't make any sense. Why would the Shining Ones let that happen?
That was my question. How did they come
it's
back? It's
a logical question. Yes, exactly. Well, if you read the Bible, which is a retelling of older things that most of them are extremely, like I said, lost in translation. There's a lot missing in all of this backstory. So when my wife asked me that, I had to stop and think. And because I've had contact or relationship with these angels of light, the Shining Ones, when I asked, I was given okay, I haven't read this anywhere, but it was just suddenly I was given this insight. I think this is the best word, an insight about how it happened and why. And I'll just run it by you like this. We know for a fact that the higher ranking Shining Ones they were very upset. They did not want to have to do this police action on their own kind here on this world. There was a lot of regret. That's pretty clear in the records. And yet they had to do it. And they had to deal with the consequences of it. So the way it was shown to me was that they decided to give the fallen ones a second chance. I mean, it's what we do. That's not theoretical. We do that with prisoners. We try to rehabilitate them, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
So how would they do that? Well, they let them out. They gave them more Homo sapiens, and they said, we're giving you a second chance. And if you screw this up, we're going to remove you we're going to have to isolate you entirely in a place that you're not going to be happy with. But if you do what we ask, then we will take that into consideration on your sentencing. And I forget the exact term for it, but if you can prove that you're willing to be rehabilitated, will commute your sentence. All right. I think that's the term. So unfortunately, and they said, we're letting you out of this immediate little prison cell, but this planet is now your prison. You cannot leave. If you try and leave through physical or spiritual through a portal, your soul will be disintegrated. Now, I know that sounds really extreme, but apparently they took this very seriously with this violation, a series of criminal acts by this group of fallen angels. So, I've been going back and forth on this. Wes Penray, I don't know if you've ever read his work.
Yes.
But he talks about that, the soul net around the planet. Actually, that's there for the fallen ones. It's not for us. And it was only discovered in 2017 by scientists who said that looks like something from Star Trek. They said, "Oh, it's there to shield the planet." No, it's not. It's there like a bug zapper. If the fallen ones try to leave, they will literally have knowingly committed suicide.
Wow.
I mean, on a soul level, which is really, that's as extreme as it gets, in my opinion. So I know this sounds fantastical what I'm telling you, but I'm just gonna finish it. So that's why everything. There's just no way that the Noah could have reconstituted everything on behalf of the fallen, with the fallen angels in charge like that, unless it was somehow permitted. Again, there's a lot missing there. So here's the final piece of this particular puzzle. The fallen ones said to each other, they reasoned like, wait a second, instead of this being our prison, we could turn this into our fortress. And then we could negotiate from a position of power with our superiors. Now, I know that's crazy, but you've heard something called criminally insane.
Yeah.
That term, criminally insane. That's where they're at, because that's what the dark side will do to a person. It's not just, and this isn't just now radiation we're talking about. We're talking about a certain type of energy. And I think I told you this before. There's really only two kinds of energy. There's dissonance, which is dark and destructive, negative, and unsustainable. And then there's resonance, which is harmonic and or harmonious and loving, and it's nurturing. It's what everything's, all nature is based on, resonance, and it's sustainable. So the dark side is something that's very real, and again, it serves a purpose in that souls come here and to not just Earth, but all the lower realms that we are challenged. And as we overcome these challenges, pass the different tests, we become smarter, stronger, and more perfect in this regard. Because I was really confused. What do you mean perfect? That's what I asked them. What are we perfecting? And they said, your divinity, dummy. You're divine. I know it sounds crazy, but that's the way they were talking to me. It's like a child. What did you think? What did you think? What were you thinking? Well, I don't know. That's why I asked you. We're perfecting our divinity? Yeah, you're cultivating it. We're helping you, but you have to. So here's the thing. It really is. Creation is a meritocracy. We are, all the choices we make and the actions that we take are held in something. Some people call it the Akashic record. I don't know if I like that term, but loosely, let's just say we all have a personal record of our deeds, our thoughts and our deeds. And that follows us everywhere we go. And actually that determines where we go as we move forward. So there's two paths when you're down here in this realm. The lower realms is you can go on the path of light, meaning you're ascending back into the heavens. And that takes as long as you need. Apparently it takes as long as we need as individuals to get back into that. If we can make it. I'm not sure everybody does, but whatever. The other path is the path of darkness. And some souls choose to go down that. And I don't agree with it, but because we have free will, then we don't have any right to, it's like you can't enforce enlightenment on somebody. You can say, hey, if they're asking for help, fine, but you cannot, like a drug addict. They consider it to be, they're going to fight you, okay, until they're ready to get well. So it's to me, it's like, I know things look bad right now, but it's only because the dark side is desperate. They know they've already lost, in my opinion, and others have said the same thing. There's no way they can win this thing because they are criminals.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's not like somebody hates them and wants to punish them. It's because they refuse to change their behavior, and they keep committing these crimes. And what else can you possibly do with somebody who's a career criminal like that?